Hi everyone, today is March 17th, 2018, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger.
And I'm Def Tech.
And it's a week where we saw a release of a new box. Some of the events, the PvE events that went on, wrapped up during this week. And hasn't been a lot going on, but we do have a lot to talk about in terms of esports, the new cards, and also some future things to talk about coming to the game soon. But the PvP arena has been quite interesting, as we've both seen this week. So, what have you been up to there?
Yeah, it's nice that the in-game events have kind of chilled out for a sec to let us appreciate how diverse the PvP area is. There's just a lot of different decks that are viable right now, which can make it both more difficult and more exciting at times. It's easier to counter the meta when you know what to expect, but it's also really exciting to just be able to play a bunch of different stuff. So I was playing my 3-star demotion deck. I got to Legend 1. I'm not sure if I ever got close to Legend 2, broke into it, or fell back or whatever, but I found out that it was struggling a bit against the new meta right after the box released. It seemed like I was facing against aliens and Sylvans a lot, and both of those matchups are not really good for the deck because both decks have decent ways of getting rid of a big Sangha. And so I tried to switch to something else, and have been looking at a Sea Stealth attack build, trying to figure out which one I like, because I finally opened that second Sea Stealth attack, and I tried out the Gishki version first because that was kind of the new hotness, but I didn't like it as much because it felt very reactive and defensive. So I am trying out a more aggressive version now with Hammer Shark, and I like it a little better so far, but I'm still definitely not sure if it's the right version or not. I've just been kind of trying to build them on my own instead of looking at established decks, so I might have to take a peek at some of the stuff we're talking about this week and see if it can help inform those decisions. And the final thing is that I ended up never farming Cyrus ever. We were talking about it last week, and I just kept auto-dueling him because I looked at it when I was ready to possibly start actually farming him, and I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty close to getting all the rewards, and like we talked about last week, I wasn't super excited about the rewards anyway, and he was a little complicated to farm, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep auto-dueling it, and I ended up getting everything, including a couple of extra copies of stuff, but one card. I fell short of one of the SRs, but I got, a couple of 4s and 5s, so his drop rates were good enough that one could have, if one got a little bit luckier than I did, gotten everything just from auto-dueling him, which is interesting. I think you're right that you mentioned it last week, his drop rates are pretty generous, and I think they might have changed stuff to make it different than before.
They finally fixed farming. It's possible. Like, you don't have to farm like that. They fixed it. You don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, I think they didn't like farming because it's like a bastardization of their beautiful plan of this fun PvE event or something. Yeah. We saw them trying to make farming more difficult for a long time in multiple events, and in this one they made it more difficult as well. But I guess they had to kind of come to terms with the fact that if you put good cards in an event, which you often try to do because it makes the event more exciting, then you're going to get people farming it because people want 3 copies of those good cards, and people are going to want 3 copies of any new cards anyway, but especially when they're good cards. So I guess if you make it so that maybe the cards are a little bit weaker, like we saw with Cyrus, and the drop rates are a little bit better, then people can focus on the event a little bit more than just trying to abuse it and farm it. I wonder if this is a trend that's they're going to keep doing going forward.
No more Super Joe events.
Yeah, well,
those cards are so good compared to everything else.
Yeah, we have. Who's coming up next? We have a Taya. Super someone, right?
Yeah, Taya's coming.
Ooh, spoilers.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention.
So yeah, we'll see how hers goes.
Cool.
What about you? What are you up to?
Yeah, so if you remember last week, I was in Legend 3. I don't know if I ever hit that promotion match, but I was there. And then I kept waffling back between 2 and 3 during the week. And then I finally ended up in Legend 1. I guess the positive is that I'm getting my volume up. I always say that. And I'm getting my rewards. I'm like at 80. Close to 80. I don't think I'm there yet, but I'm close there. Which is funny because people hit 80 wins by the first day sometimes.
Ooh.
Like I saw a tournament where they were using the UR, the guy who ramps stuff, and
Wow.
you could only get that if you get 80 or 100. I forget how many. I think 100. So someone hit like 100 wins in one day, but we're just not. I don't know. We're old, I guess, so we don't have the stamina. But
Yeah, I don't know, man. I got a job. I can't be playing 100 games in one day. I didn't mention this in my part. I have 30 wins so far. That's like,
your win rate's crazy.
we're halfway through the month.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
you were getting your volume up. What have you been playing?
Yeah, I can't stick to a deck. So last week, I think I apologized to Golden Flying Fish, and I wanted to play it again. And then it was basically waffling me between 2 and 3. So then I switched over to Red Eye Zombie. I played 2 different versions. I played Tie That Binds. No, 3 different versions. I played Tie That Binds. Right now I'm using the Bones version, which isn't amazing to me either. And then I played this Heartbeats Hunting Ground combo version. That's kind of weird, but that didn't take me too far either. And then I played a Weevil Alien deck. So I can't stick to anything. And furthermore, I lost to Exodia this week. There's this Exodia deck running around Legend, and they're using like Alien Greys to help them draw cards, and yeah, I lost.
That'll show you.
Yeah, so basically I can't stick to anything. I'm waiting for something to play to help me get to King of Games, but right now I do not know. So I will wait around. I'll probably play PvP eventually today, but we'll see.
Yeah, the weekends are when I get most of my games in, so we'll see where we can go.
Yeah. Oh well. Let's talk about this week in esports. Duel Links Meta 11. It's happening on Tuesday. First place Nyx. This is the new look Sea Stealth Attack deck that we are seeing. And by new look, we mean it has 2 Gishki chains and 3 Fishborg planters. You've got your Abyss Soldiers, your Whales, your Hammer Sharks, 2 Sea Stealth attacks, and then some choice of your back row. This deck uses Econ and Curse of Anubis. And interestingly, the side deck has Magic Deflector, which has become sort of a staple side deck card for these decks to counter Cosmic Cyclone.
Yep, this is an interesting build. Like you said, it's kind of become the standard. Curse of Anubis is the most common one for that back row card, along with the 3 econs. So this is probably like just the most standardized non-tech version, as kind of people have started to figure out how they want this deck to look.
Second place Nell with Restart Aliens. 22 card version. It has Snipe Hunter and Cosmic Cyclone, which are, I guess, they're good in tournament formats. You won't typically run those in Aliens, but yeah, otherwise pretty standard list.
Yeah, I guess you played a little bit of Aliens. How did you like it versus the Sea Stealth Attack decks?
It was good. Well, let me think. It's hard to say.
It looks like without the Cyclone and or Snipe Hunter, but mostly Cyclone, you would have a lot of trouble once they get the Whale online.
Because you can't target anything.
Right, yeah. You can't target. You can target it once per turn, and then they can counter that. So you need to target it twice, which is definitely possible because you've got the econs and the brainwashing. And but if you attack in, you can't use the counters to really help you because it activates Sea Stealth Attack and removes your guy anyway. So
And I think the whale doesn't destroy the warrior by battle. I think it's an effect destruction, so you can't put counters on. You can only put counters on with the Overlord and the Alien Grey, I believe. And then you need to use like 2 brainwashing beams to take control of it. So it's a lot of work, yeah.
yeah, so I think the play is what you have to do is you have to overload them so that they have to get rid of their whale, remove it from play, and then you just attack through when they're unguarded. But that seems like it's a little tough because obviously the aliens are slightly understated to make up for their powerful abilities. So I could see it not being the best matchup, and that's why he has to make these concessions to it in the tournament setting. When you're on the ladder, especially recently, the Sea Stealth attack decks, I've seen less of them, so you can just ignore them and just take a loss every once in a while because that's annoying, but it's fine. But in a tournament, you can't really afford to have a 70% win rate or whatever it is because you need to win these matches to continue on. So I could see that as being the reason why he has to shift his deck up a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Third place, Squash Gamer, Bones Res deck. Nothing special about this deck. It's a 22 card deck. You put in Cosmic Cyclone, I guess. Res is one of those decks where you don't really have a set number of cards, and you do see more of them for storms and things like that.
Yeah, with so many tutor effects, you can afford to have a couple extra cards in the deck, and I agree. Looks like a pretty standard list. He's got the 1 Cyclone in the main deck and then 2 more in the sideboard, so he really doesn't like Sea Stealth attack.
Yeah. And then Akuma also got 3rd place. This is a 24 card res deck. This is the Snipe Hunter version, which I guess you could throw away more cards. And of course, Snipe Hunter works well with res because you do want to throw away your zombies. And you have extra insights eventually, things like that.
Yeah, I like Snipe Hunter in the deck. I do not like 24 card decks, but, that seems like that's a losing battle on my part with Red A's. I don't think that every deck must be 20 cards or anything like that, but I think it's used to be that everyone said, it's 20 or bust, and I think now a lot of people are making it more than 20 just because that's what everyone's doing, and I think whatever the number is, you need to think about why you're doing that and why it's correct for your deck.
Yeah, don't just net deck and say, I have to have 21 or 22. There's a reason for it in that specific deck, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Duel Links Meta Giveaway Tournament. This happened Thursday, I think, or Wednesday, I forget. My days are all messed up, but let's see. Jason, first place. So this is a really cool deck. This is a combination of Sea Stealth Attack and Flying Fish. So it starts off as that Gishki Chain version, but the tech cards include Oystermeister and 3 Golden Flying Fish. And basically you just sub out the Aqua types or Sea Serpents for fishes, and it can become a Golden Flying Fish deck.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing this one in our list, so you're going to have to guide me through it. Are those ones that you say sub out, is that in the sideboard?
Yeah, so the deck itself has Beautiful Princess and Oystermeister, but then there's another Oystermeister and 3 Golden Flying Fish in the sideboard.
I like it. I kind of had the same idea when, like I said, I was struggling to find a Sea Stealth Attack list that I liked. I tried to build one that just combined the 2 decks, and I found that it didn't really fit because you ended up with those 24, 25 cards or whatever. So in an event where you have a sideboard, I could see it working a lot better because you can put some of those extra cards. That's traditionally called a transformational sideboard, where you kind of switch your deck archetype. You use your sideboard instead of for tech cards, as most sideboards do, for an archetype defining card or a couple, so that you can switch it out, and then between matches your deck becomes a different deck essentially. And that's great because, for instance, if people are sideboarding in a bunch of Cosmic Cyclones, that's not good against your deck anymore when your deck is no longer based on Sea Stealth Attack. which might have been his plan, or it's something along those lines. And so I really like that plan. I think I would like to try that out as well if I were ever in some sort of tournament sideboard format.
Is that a common thing to do? This is the first time I feel like I've seen it in Duel Links.
It's not super common, no, because usually sideboards are commonly used for those tech cards because those tech cards are just so powerful for certain matchups. And so you have to make the decision that it's worth more for you to a little bit of the advantage is the unexpected nature, but basically you have to find that switching your deck from whatever it was to this new version is generally better against the field than just having a bunch of good cards that are specifically targeting the popular decks in the field. And that's a tough decision to make. Usually the stats kind of belie that because it's easier to just sub in 3 cards against this deck or 2 cards against that one, and make a big enough impact that way. But I did it back in my Magic days. At one of the biggest tournaments that I went to was the regionals for Southern California, and I did it in that one. It worked pretty well for me. I ended up just missing the cutoff. Womp womp.
Second place, Drop. Drop got this is just the standard list we mentioned before with Sea Stealth Attack, Gishki Chain, Fishborg Planter. This one has a Karibo, though, instead of the Curse of Anubis, I guess.
Yeah, I saw a Reddit post where a guy was talking about the various different versions of Sea Stealth Attack, and the cool version that we haven't seen, by the way, as a little segue, is we haven't seen very much Grass is Greener Sea Stealth Attack, but I like the look of that. But with my experience with Grass is Greener, I can see why that's not the most popular version. It ends up for a little bit of swing turns that are unpredictable. But one thing that he did mention is that his version ran the Kuribo as well, and so I've seen a little bit of it. I'm currently trying it out.
Third place deck, Lyral. Why don't you talk about this deck? All we know is it's dual standby. Everything else is a mess here.
So this deck is it's got some BLS stuff and it's got some Destiny Hero stuff. So it's a bunch of cards that we're not really used to seeing. And let's see, let's pull it up. It's got the Creator, it's got 2 of the BLS, one, I can't read all the names, but the King of the Swamp, the Dasher, some of the Destiny Hero, what's that guy, Malicious? Yeah. Decider, a couple more Fusion, the Hex, so it's a dark one, which is good. And then a couple more of the Destiny Hero cards, and from the structure deck, a Bacon Saver and forget that guy's name,
Dreamer?
but the flag.
Dreamer, yeah. Oh, AD Changer.
Yes, the Dreamer and the AD Changer. The Dreamer's part of the new box. And so basically, or not the new box, the set deck.
Yeah.
Thank you, structure deck, which is called Destiny Rulers. So basically this deck looks to want to use the trap Beginning of Heaven and Earth to fill your graveyard with powerful Destiny heroes, and possibly get you a BLS into your hand. The Destiny heroes have graveyard effects, as we talked about a week or two ago when we discussed the theme deck. And so you can use them to draw extra cards or to block damage to you or to ramp up a little bit with the Malicious. And then you can also use them to get that card advantage back with the Creator. It runs one Creator, it runs 1 Jar of Avarice. And with the various reanimation effects as well, you can fill up your hand and or your board and then use one of the polymerization effects. He's got a couple polymerizations, a couple ways to tutor it, and get out a powerful fusion monster like Red Eye Slash, Destiny Hero Dangerous, both of which like having things in your graveyard, or Destiny Hero Trinity, which just allows for really big swing turns. So all in all, it is a big deck. Let's see, 1, 2, 3,
30.
4, 5, 6, 30 card deck. And so it has a lot going on, but it seems really fun, and it seems like it could be pretty consistent. There's a lot of redundancy here.
Yeah,
what do you think of it?
It looks really dirty though. Like there's just so many random cards, and there's no 3-ofs. Well, there's one 3-ofs of the beginning Heaven and Earth, but it seems like it's like a lot of stuff. Like you would need to know how to play this deck. You can't just net deck this and expect to win. It's really, you need a lot of practice with this deck.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, this isn't a deck you just net deck. As you just saw, I didn't even know what half the cards were called because they're not even cards you see too frequently. But I think that the consistency issue is a little bit mitigated by the fact that you have the various tutors. The Heaven and Earth is really good in this deck because it gets you cards you want in your hand, but it also gets important things into your graveyard. And you have essentially five polymerizations. Yeah. So even though there's no 3-of it, it is a little bit more consistent in that way. So obviously it worked pretty well for him in this event. He got 3rd/4th, and it looks like it could be more consistent than it might appear at first blush, because there's just a lot of ways to get the engine going. I would love to try it out, except I don't have the creator or the new structure deck, but I could. The structure deck's obviously pretty easy. It looks like he only bought the new structure deck once, which is nice. Twice?
Vision Hero Vion, they only give you 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
So close. Okay. I thought he only needed it once. So, okay. Yeah. So it takes a little bit more of an investment, especially if you don't already have the creator. But it is a cool deck.
Maybe when we have some downside on gems, we don't have to spend. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
Whenever that.
I've always wanted to play creator decks. It's just I didn't buy that set through, and it's a big one, so it's expensive to do that.
I think he's an Electric Overload, right? It's like an old set.
I don't remember, but you're probably right.
The other 3rd place winner is Clubs, and this is one that could be pretty viable for PvP. It's a balanced Cyber Angels deck, and it's pretty much the Saphira build, except you have two copies of Hey Trunade, which helps Cyber Angels deal with the back row for pretty much the first time.
Yeah, like you said, it is probably going to see play. I saw some people discussing it as soon as Hey Trunade was kind of spoiled, and they were talking about whether you wanted to sacrifice it could make your draw slightly more clunky, because all of your ritual spells, of course, are spells as well. So the Hey Trunade might pop into your hand when instead you want a ritual at the start of the game. But I do think that it's a really powerful effect for the deck, especially since the deck has a lot of one-turn kill potential. So I think that it does work, and you might take that brick every once in a while for the chance to just OTK people. And if you just get a normal draw without the Hey Trunade, then you can just play it like your normal Saphira and get the advantage over time and the powerful cards and stuff. So I definitely agree that there's some that might be the way to go forward.
And definitely it always counters Wall of D, which is a problem for Cyber Angels, I think.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's that tournament. We have a special one here, the Rawa Fuzaki Cup number 2. This is a Japanese tournament, and the interesting thing about this one is that they have a 7-card side deck. What do you think about that?
I like it. It's interesting. I don't know well, I guess there isn't really a standard Duel Links side deck, because there isn't an official one. So it's hard to say. The 5-card side deck always seemed really small to me, but we only run a 20 card deck, so it's like appropriate given that size of deck. With a 7 card deck, you can do those transformational sideboards much more easily, for instance. But I guess if you're thinking of it from the 20 to 30 card deck, then maybe a 7 card side deck would work. In terms of just traditionally, like in Magic, your sideboard is a 15 card deck, and your deck is almost always a 60 card deck. You can play more, but almost no one does. And so it's a quarter of the size. And with that math, the 5 card deck makes sense. I don't remember what traditional like paper Yu-Gi-Oh's ratio is.
I think it was 10.
But it was 10?
Sideboard
okay, so that's a third of your normal deck, right? So I guess 7 cards makes sense.
I don't know.
Didn't you have 30 card decks?
I don't remember.
Or you have 40 card decks?
I thought there was 40.
Oh, geez. All right. Everyone send your hate mail to... okay, well, if it's 40, then yeah, we're back to that same ratio. And I guess 7 kind of makes sense if you're expecting people to play more on the high end, but most people don't in this game. So it's just kind of a couple extra cards.
Yep. All right, let's look at these decks. First of all, first place, FGHHYH Dinosaur deck. You cut out 8 Black Brachios, so there's only 8 monsters here. And, yeah, there's a disappear in it, so it's 21 cards. Otherwise, it's just a dinosaur deck. You got your Fire Formation Gyakus, which is a really solid card. Cosmic Cyclones.
Yeah, nothing super exciting there. It's a little bit weird to put that disappear into the deck in place of the Black Brachios, but I don't know. I guess with such a big sideboard, I would just make my deck really refined and put all of those tech type cards into the sideboard.
Yeah. Second place, Sun, Restart Aliens. This is an alien deck with lava golems. No alien grades or brainwashing beams, though.
Interesting. I wonder, so the lava golems are just to deal a little bit of face damage, and I'm sorry?
I'm not really sure like how they consistently. I guess it's just unexpected, right?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the unexpected nature, but I was thinking like maybe your plan is just to load it up with a bunch of the counters or whatever they are as soon as possible, so it's not going to just demolish you in the face, but you usually only need a couple hits, right? Yeah. This isn't a stall deck. It's kind of a mid-rangey deck, so it's going to get a little bit of damage in on its own, and then you do that last 1,000 or 2,000 damage with the lava golem. So you only need to survive like a turn when it's out. So maybe you just only play it when you can do that.
I guess that's the reason why I played the Weevil alien deck. Because you kind of put them on the clock. Like, they have less than 1,000 life points, and then they have to draw into the parasite type situation. Because the aliens do a lot of damage.
Yeah. I could see it working.
Third place, this is, their Twitter name is Yuma, so I can't read that, but it's Yuma. Restart Aliens. This version has Sir Kuribo and Feng Huang. No brainwashing beam again. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I guess probably that's in response to a bunch of
Cosmic Cyclones.
Yeah, I was thinking Cosmic Cyclone and Hey Trunade, but does Brainwashing Beam has to remain on the board, right, for it to work?
Yeah, if you destroy it, they lose control of the card.
Yeah, okay, so it must just be because they're expecting a lot of Hey Trunade and also a decent amount of side hate from, like you said, those Cosmic Cyclones.
And finally, fourth place, Maritsugo. This could be the last time you see Glad Beasts. It's a last gamble Glad Beast deck. They did this tournament before the new cards were released. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind that thing I said about Hey Trunade. It's just for the Cosmic Cyclones.
Yeah, this is a pretty standard list as well for Gladiator Beasts, and we are seeing less of them on the ladder because of Hey Trunade.
Yeah, same with my 3-star. That's another thing. I didn't face too many Hey Trunades, but the first time it happens, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, has that ability.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that tournament. Let's talk about the DLPT weekly. There's not much to say about this deck. First place was -1, and they played that Sea Stealth Attack deck with Gishki Chain and Fishborg Planner, but they ran Mirror Walls as their back row card. So that's what that tournament was. And you can sign up for DLPT 15 next week, the 24th, $5 entry fee, 1 p.m. Eastern. All right.
Cool.
New week campaign. So things changed dramatically this week. Konami saw that everyone hated the cards, so they gave us SRs and URs.
Mm-hmm. I got I'm pretty sure it was a Gishki Aerial, which was like very timely in that I had just gotten my Sea Stealth Attack, and I was planning to try out the deck. And at the time, people were running that 3 times Aerial, 1 time Beast, 2 or 3 time Chain version.
Right.
Which was the one that I was talking about when I said I didn't like that version as much. So I guess going through all these other ones, people kind of agreed with that sentiment as well. But I already had 3 Aerials, so it was like, oh, that's nice, kinda. But since all of these cards are going to be cards, it seems that all of these cards, like we mentioned last time, are from like events or tickets and stuff. I'm probably most of the time going to have 3 of everything I get anyway. So, I'm happy with an extra SR, sure.
Yeah.
How about you?
I got a Karibo, so I could use my multiply I got last week. It's funny how it worked out.
That's some synergy right there.
Yeah. I just need detonate, and I'm good to go. All right.
I did one of the, what were they? At the Duel School where you can do a practice deck.
Loner decks, yeah.
Yeah, the loner deck. And I got a Kuribo based deck with the multiply and the detonate and stuff. And I was like, oh baby, time to go. That was back when I was hurting up for gems really bad. So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll play this for 5 gems.
I think it's 3. I don't remember.
3, yeah. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
It's still is.
Worth
If I saw it again, I'd do it again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, check those loner decks, because like every 5 days or so, they have a gem reward or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It used to be that it wasn't worth it because you would just go into PvP and play more and get more. But that was back when you would get multiple of the skills, and then you would get gems for replacing the skills. And now that they've changed that, you're more likely to get new skills, which is exciting and cool. But it really cuts off like a decent source of gems that you could have gotten just by playing normally before. So
yeah, sometimes the number of bad skills and draw sense and draw pass make me wonder. I really kind of miss those gems.
yeah, I mean, I do. I stopped buying whatever the ocean set, Abyss, whatever it was, after I got that Sea Stealth Attack. But I haven't purchased any of the new set that this new MiniBOX that we're about to talk about, and that's kind of a bummer because there's some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, we're kind of hurting for gems. So Konami, please give us some gems in an event. Let Taya give us some gems or something.
Yeah, Taya can give us some gems. I also think it's a good time to raise the cap. I mean, I've been at max level for a long time, so I feel like it's about time. Probably most people will have caught up. It seems like it's about time to raise it again. Yep. To me, anyway.
It's about damn time.
Give us some more gems to get this new box that we're talking about now.
All right. Type it up. It's the Rampage of the Forest. And it's a mini box, and there's specific themes you can see with it. You see some insects, and it's possibly making Weevil not a burn duelist anymore, which is very interesting. And there's also the big Sylvan archetype, and also some very core cards we talked about last week. But let's go over these cards. We're going to go over all the URs and SRs, the important Sylvans, and some of the other interesting cards we see. Armored Bee, 1600, 1200 insect. Once per turn, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and have its attack until the end phase. So it's good against big threats, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. It's a decent effect. It's a 4-star 1600 attack, so you kind of need that halving so that it can win fights in the current meta. There's not too many things that have less than 1600 attack, but I could see it seeing a little bit of play in the right deck. It's a little bit of a borderline card, so it's probably not going to see too much play, but there's definitely some good targets, and it can get some work done.
Yeah. The problem is it can't get Hazy Flame monsters because you can't target them, so it kind of sucks because they are like the main big beatdown deck. Metamorphosed Insect Queen. This is a 2800-2400 insect. Cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by a card effect. It's kind of vague. It just says it can only be special summoned by a card effect. If another insect is on the field, your opponent cannot target insect monsters with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. At the end of the damage step, this card's attacked. You contribute one monster, and this card can attack an opponent's monster again in a row. Once per turn during the end phase, you can special summon one token to the board. So basically, you special summon the tokens to trigger her effects.
Yeah, I was watching DK's stream for a little bit, and I saw a spicy deck that ran something to get this out very quickly. Something non-traditional, because it's, like you said, it's any card effect. So it's not just the one that's pretty obviously kind of set up for it to be in this set, which we're going to talk about in the SRs. So there's a couple ones it could be. I forget exactly what was on the stream, but there's anything that allows you to special summon, which there are a lot of things that do allow you to special summon. It doesn't limit it to from your hand or anything. So there's cards that allow you to special summon from the deck, from the graveyard. There's a lot of options for this card, and it's pretty powerful once it gets going. So there's some potential here.
Yeah, we don't have the card Pinch Hopper, which special summons it from the hand. That would be pretty good.
Don't we?
I don't think so. I think we just face it. It would be too OP, I think, to have as a card to play.
I don't know. I thought I remembered some sort of farming deck based on it. Hold on. You talk about the next card. I'll look for Pinch Hopper.
Okay. Rock Spirit, SR, Rock 1700 attack, 1000 defense. It's a spirit monster, I think. No, it's not a spirit monster. Whoops. Can't be normal summoned or set. This card can only be special summoned by removing from play one earth monster from your graveyard. Increase its attack by 300 during your opponent's battle phase. So, these rock cards could have use in 30-card magnet decks, I think. But it does kind of drain your graveyard of monsters for Valkyrian.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking for Pinch Hopper, and I found him, by the way. But going back to this guy, I think he's okay. Like you said, it's got a decent synergy with the rock types. Special summon's nice, and it has a decent body, so I could see it seeing some play, but it's not like super flashy or terribly exciting. So it'd be tough for it to make the cut. And just to clarify, Pinch Hopper was in Flame of the Tyrant, whatever that one, the fire set, which was pretty early on into this game, but it didn't have any good targets for a while. I remember yes, now it does. I remember we used it for some farming deck because it was broken, like Kaiba didn't want to attack into it or something like that for a while. And I, of course, bought that set through 3 times to get Sergeant Electro, so I have plenty of Pinch Hoppers. So I might, if I end up buying this set, have something fun to do with it.
Cool. Dark Horror we talked about last week. It's the card where you could banish a monster by discarding a card. Mostly an upgrade because it's useful against any of the decks that use graveyard effects, and it's good for decks that discard things. So, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be a face-up monster, but I don't think Tribute to the Doomed does, so that's another difference. But yeah, definitely a decent card, especially if you don't have Tribute to the Doomed.
And it plays around Powerful Rebirth, which is a very popular card now.
Yes, yeah, it is really popular now.
Doomdozer SR, Insect 2800 attack, 2600 defense, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by banishing 2 insects from the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned any other way. And when this card inflicts battle damage on your opponent, send the top card of their deck to the graveyard. So this is kind of like Gaia Plate, I think.
Yeah.
Insect, yeah.
Yeah, that's the rock one. I like this one with the insects. I always like these types of cards that let you special summon by removing stuff from the graveyard. I like those exile or excavate decks. I like graveyard recursion stuff. I like all of that where you're playing around with the different zones that aren't always used in the game. And so this is an interesting card. I would probably build something with magical merchants and stuff to make it come out. Who's also an insect?
That's
perfect.
Gigaplant, 2400, 1200 plant Gemini. So as a Gemini monster, it's normal monster at first, and then you resummon it for an effect. Once per turn, you can special summon 1 insect or plant from your hand or graveyard. So this is a much better version than Ill Blood, because when Ill Blood gets destroyed, everything else gets destroyed as well. So this one permanently keeps the monster on the board. It works with insects and plants, so you can cheat it out with Aramage, Jasmine, Blazewing, Butterfly, any of those Gemini tools. It's a great card, I think. It's just going to keep getting better, I think.
Nice. Yeah, those are some good tools. I haven't seen this guy see any play yet, but yeah. It sounds like there's definitely some potential there.
Yep. Memory Loss we talked about last week. It's the trap card that negates a monster's effect and puts them in defense mode for no cost. It's useful against cards that do something or return, like Gozuki, Warrior of Atlantis, Senju, and Snipe Hunter. I guess it just stops them from doing things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a decent card. It's hard to, it's kind of card disadvantage because it's kind of a 0.5 for 1 or something like that, where you're giving up one of your cards to halfway deal with one of theirs. But in this game, there's some solid targets. You'd probably rather Floodgate Trap Hole almost always, but maybe you don't have those. Like I only have 1, so right. It's a decent card. Might see some play.
Hey Trunade, this is the card we've been talking about a lot. It basically returns all set spells and traps to the hand. I was thinking about how this is better than anti-magic arrows. I couldn't really think of the reason, why, what's the difference?
Well, it's not just in combat, so you can play it and then play your monsters and stuff. So it plays around Floodgate Trap Hole, plays around, you can't activate, not that this happens too much anymore, but you can't activate Mirror Wall in the main phase to avoid the anti-magic arrows if you're trying to play around anti-magic arrows. So I think the main reason is probably that Floodgate Trap Hole thing, or the other... That's kind of the main one, but any other cards that would matter in that main phase before you go into combat?
I guess that Alien A-Cell recombination as well. You could just do it before they hit your monster.
Mm-hmm.
Different quick plays and traps, I guess. That works.
Yeah, a lot of the quick plays and traps, it works essentially the same. But for those ones that matter in the battle phase, I think it's much better.
Yeah. So basically, you would just play this before you play your monster, always, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I can't really think of a reason why you wouldn't. Nope. I think that's the way that it's better than anti-magic arrows. And it's not that it's so much better that you need to buy this box specifically for that, but it's one of those situations where one card is just a little bit better, and so there's no reason why you wouldn't run that card.
Right.
If you have it, I think.
But this is a card that people like super hyped. Like it caught my eye right away, and people are going to complain about this card a lot. So it's just that type of card that has a big ability. But yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. It enables OTK strategies. It shuts down a lot of decks, like the control decks, like the Glad Beasts, that rely on the back row, and whether that's a good or a bad thing kind of probably depends on what types of decks you like, but it's definitely signaling a change in the just general flow of how the game works.
Yep, very important card.
Yeah.
Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. Quick play spell. Tribute one insect from either field equipped with an equip card, and if you do, special summon one insect monster from your deck. During your main phase, you can banish this card from the graveyard, target one insect monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and draw a card. You can use this effect once per turn. So this works with the Insect Queen, obviously, but the problem is they have to have an equipped spell on their monster.
Right. Yeah, there aren't a ton of great equipped spells. There's some that are usable. It's really cool that this is a quick play, because that makes it just so much more powerful. You can do combat tricks and stuff with it. You can do it in response to something that might be trying to kill, like 2-for-1 you. We always talk about the downside of equip magics is that they can use one card to kill your monster and thereby kill your equip as well in most cases. And so this is a nice little workaround for that. It's a good card. Obviously, you'd only play it, though, in the decks where you're trying to get out a specific insect or two. Like, usually, probably the queen is one of those insects.
Yep. Alright, we're going to go into Sylvans now, and this is the SR Sylvan, Sylvan Komushrumo, 100-2000 plant, a fire attribute. So all of the Sylvans have an ability of excavation, so this one is when this card is flipped face up, you can excavate from 1 to 5 cards, and then any of the plant... Send any plant monsters to the graveyard and place the others to the bottom of the deck in any order. If this card is excavated itself and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, target one spell or trap on the field and destroy it.
Yeah, so do we want to talk about all of them first, or talk about each one?
We would say this one's good. This one's good because it excavates the most cards, and it is the one that controls the back row.
Yeah, that controlling the back row is clutch. The secondary effect of putting things in the bottom of your deck in any order is important for the spicy version of Sylvans that I played that runs Magical Merchant, to just get a whole bunch of the excavate effects going at the same time. Because when you put cards at the bottom of your deck in any order, you can make it so that your one spell or trap card is like the second to last card or something, and just maximize your merchants. But that's not the standard build of Sylvans. Why don't we talk about the other Sylvans, and then it'll kind of become more clear what the more standard builds are.
This is Martial Leaf. We're moving into the rares now and ends. A Martial Leaf is 1500, 1200, and when it's normal summoned, you can excavate 1 or 2 cards. That's the same thing where you could throw away your plants and then rearrange the bottom cards. But if it's excavated itself, you can destroy any monster on the field. So it's kind of like, if you're thinking about Glad Beast, you have Murmillo and Bestiari. This is the Murmillo, and the Komushroom was the Bestiari, basically. Sylvan Flower Knight, 1800 attack, 1000 defense. When it's normal summoned, you can excavate 1 card, so it has that same ability. If it is excavated itself and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, choose a Sylvan from your deck and place it to the top. So it's kind of like a beater version of the monsters. Sylvan Blade Fender is a card you would use if you don't use Flower Knight. It's 1900 attack. Its excavation ability only triggers when you destroy a monster by battle, so it's less good in that regard. And if it's excavated, you can just add it to your hand. So you get to choose which one you want to use, I guess.
Yeah. I've seen more people running the Flower Knight.
Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, same thing. Hermitry is 2700 attack, 1800 defense. You can excavate one card from its ability. And then, if it's excavated itself, you can look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and place them in any order. But the main thing is this guy's 2700 attack, and he comes to the board thanks to Rose Lover, if he's in your hand, so that's why he's there.
Yeah, he's normally a 2 tribute, but you're usually not expecting to have to pay that. So you're just getting a beat stick for cheap.
It's a free-to-play card.
Yeah.
Sylvan Guardioch is another one. You see less of this one, but sometimes there's one. 2400 attack, 1 tribute. You can excavate 1 to 3 cards from the top of your deck. If it's excavated yourself, you can target 1 plant in your graveyard and place it at the top of your deck. So this is another target for Rose Lover. I think that's why it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are the most common ones that we've seen.
Yep.
Other R's and N's. World Carrot Weight Champion. Where is this guy? 1900 attack 0. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send 1 plant from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard, except for this one. And then you can special summon this card. So I think you're sending a Rose Lover to the graveyard to get this guy back, and then you use the Rose Lover to cheat out something from your hand.
Yeah, I've seen this one see a lot of play. It's just kind of, it allows for huge swing turns. It's kind of just a good value and mid-rangey type card.
It's too bad it's so like goofy looking. It's like carrot.
Yeah, I agree.
Insect Knight. This is just the basic 1900, 1500, but if insects are going to become a deck, this guy, this guy's a good beat stick. He has pretty good defense for a 1900 attack monster. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really strong vanilla card, and it seems like they can just power creep vanilla cards almost all the way up because vanilla cards are seeing so little play now, but this is pretty much as high as you can go without it starting to power creep into, like, your SR, the Rock Spirit, is only a little bit stronger. It can be special summon, but it can't be normal summon, so it's kind of like a little bit of a trade-off there, and this card seems just barely below that power level, so they're getting really up there in the power level of these vanillas.
Yeah, I think there's
for just
limit.
A rare.
Yeah, I think there's a limit. Like, you can't be like 2200 and have no downside, but this is as high as it gets right now.
Yeah.
Des Mosquito, rare, 500 insect. When this card's normal summoned or special summoned, you can place 2 counters on it. It gains 500 attack for each counter. If this card would be destroyed by battle, remove one of those counters. So it's got some stall ability because it just stays on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good for, like, ramping stuff up and stalling.
Yep. It's annoying. It's like an insect.
Yeah, exactly. It's an annoying little mosquito. It doesn't go away.
Resonance Insect, 1700. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 5 or higher insect from your deck to your hand. If this card is banished, you can send 1 insect from your deck to the graveyard, except for this one. So it's a tutor ability for those insect decks trying to cheat out a big insect, I think. Pinch Hopper.
Yeah, it's like a double tutor ability too, which is interesting. And yeah, you're right. This one works well with the Hopper. It doesn't work with the Cocoon because you'd rather just get it out of your deck.
Yeah.
Oh, it actually, Cocoon requires it in your deck. I thought it was hand or deck. So you kind of have to choose your poison that way, how you want to build your deck to make it work. But it's definitely, as we always say, tutor effects are very powerful.
And the last card I'm going to talk about is Arrival Rivals. Quick play spell. During the battle phase, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 monster. You can only affect 1 Arrival Rivals per turn. I'm not really sure how this card's going to work, but it's cool quick play summon a monster during the battle phase.
Yeah, there's very few of those because they can really mess up combat math. Seems pretty powerful to normal summon a monster in the middle of a turn. It's a ramp effect, which I love because it gives you that extra ramp or that extra summon for the turn. It's a combat trick, and it's got a cute girls fighting pillow fight sexy battle on the art, so that's funny. This card has it all.
One card I think about that just came to mind is something like Spined Gilman, where it powers up all the other monsters. I don't know. There's probably a better option than that.
But just to maximize the combat trick potential, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
It's got it all. Duel-a-thon. This is going on right now. We recommend you do it because we're low on gems ourselves. Fossil Tusker. Yep.
It's also an easy, you just auto duel. That's what I'm doing normally anyway. I mean, I hadn't been because there was no reason to for a couple days, but now that there's a reason to again, back to the grind of the auto duels.
Back to the grind, yep. Fossil Tusker, 1800 attack 0 rock. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflicts 400 damage to your opponent. So that's all it does. It's something you could probably use in a 30-card Grass is Greener Magnets deck, but I don't see another use for it other than that, maybe.
Yeah, I wasn't too excited about this guy. I guess maybe that's the home for it. I'm thinking it's probably just not going to see any play.
Possibly, yeah. Alright, we're going to go to Duel School quickly and talk about catching up everyone with the new meta. So the meta is a bit unpredictable now, and it's been unpredictable for you too, right? It's kind of weird, right? There's so many different things going on.
Yeah, it's been a little bit weird. I haven't played a ton, as we talked about at the top, so it hasn't felt crazy to me. Some people are kind of reporting back that it is, but there's definitely a lot of viable archetypes, and it definitely feels like it's a different one that's most popular every time I log on and play a couple games.
Right. So we're going to talk about some of the new decks that are here and how to build them and things like that. So the first one is Flying Fish. It's a combo control deck. The monsters typically have 1600 to 2000 attack, and it just removes stuff from the board. I've talked about this deck ad nauseum, and it's pretty much the number one deck right now. I think it is. It's very cheap to build, but you need to level up Mako to 40. That's important, because you need cards Beautiful Princess and Fish Depth Charge. Use your rank tickets to get Oystermeister and get Hammer Shark. Powerful Rebirth is a card you need, though that's probably the most expensive one from Blades of the Spirits. They do run it with different skills, but Mako is typically the guy. And it's important to know that Golden Flying Fish is a light attribute. It's the only light attribute fish. But it messes up people's Super Rush Headlongs when they assume it's water. Yeah,
it's a solid deck. We've been talking about it for a while because obviously you, Green Ranger, spotted it kind of before the set even came out. And so it's kind of made its mark on the meta. And it's a really good deck because it is, like you said, cheap to build, fairly easy to pilot. You obviously want to be careful about how you're using your various charges, and you have to make sure you get your plays in the right order. It's not brainless or anything, but it's easier to play than some of the other top decks. Yeah. So it's a really good one for pretty much anyone to pick up if they're not sure what they want to play.
Yep. Destiny Heroes are also pretty good. This is probably the best structured deck to buy for viability. It's a beatdown deck dependent on fusions. They typically have 1600 attack, but then they can ramp up with this field spell. Great at drawing cards, graveyard manipulation, combat tricks, and it's a box you only have to buy twice, so you could spend $502. I mean, 500 gems and $2.
Yes. That was $502. Wait, correction.
It's just a bargain right here, $502. But you only need 2 purchases of the box, so you spend $2 basically. Aster always plays it. It's just a very good deck. Dangerous is a quick effect monster. They have the guy that draws cards from the graveyard. Fusions, it draws fast. It's very viable for King of Games.
Yeah, like you said, this is definitely the best structure deck that we've seen. We talked about one of the guys, I think in the MCS, was running that crazy deck, was kind of built off of this. When this one came out, we were talking about how this was the best structure deck we've had by far, because it's like a real deck that's built around stuff instead of just a collection of cards that have a shared attribute or something like that, like some of the prior ones were. So this is definitely, if you're looking to get a structure deck, this is the one you want to get.
Yep. Archfiends. This is a card that beats me all the time on PvP. It's a ramp deck that excels at removal. The monsters typically have 1500, but you could cheat out of 3000 pretty easy. Archfiend Emperor, Call the Archfiend, Archfiend Roar. They're all... this one's a bit more expensive because you have to buy Abyss counters a few times. But Trance Archfiend and Dark Necrofear are... You can get them from Bakura, or if you don't already have them, Doomdog Octros can be bought from the trader. Typically see it with Fiend Farewell with Bakura. But some of them even use Dark World cards. This one's a bit more expensive, but it is a pretty good deck. Because they could remove a monster each turn for free, basically.
Yeah.
Any card, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely good stuff. This is probably the most expensive of the ones we're talking about, because you have to buy it a couple times through. But it's a powerful thing. I saw a version that ran the, I think it's the Emperor's, the 1500 or 3000 one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw a version that ran the Emperor plus that equipment that silences the target, to go with Emperor, silence it, give it 1,000 more attack, play, I guess you could do Hey Trunade first, or you can do it with the anti-magic arrows, and then just attack in for 4,000 from hand. That's not the most common version. That's kind of more of a combo version. The most common version, like you said, is a little bit more of like a control-y beatdown thing where they're clearing a monster usually every turn, and they get card advantage through that.
Yeah. Aramages. This is probably the cheapest deck. It's a beatdown deck that draws well, gains a lot of life. The monsters have different attack, but they keep growing. Bergamot can get to 3,900, I believe, in one turn. 2,400 to 3,900. Jasmine, Bergamot, Rosemary, Aramage Garden, and Rose Lover are all obtainable from the card trader, so that's great. The Spell Absorbing Life is a rare trap card from Ultimate Rising, I believe. They use a lot of different skills, but you see Destiny draw often. And you basically want to destroy the field, destroy Ariel as well. I'm not Ariel, Jasmine. Because Jasmine, it's a ramp card and it draws cards. It just gets out of control, this deck, I think.
Yeah, exactly. This deck is one that's built upon... it's kind of like you build and build and build until you snowball out of control. So what you want to do is you don't want to give them that time to do that. You want to clear stuff as you can, as well as you can. It frequently has a full board, so cards like Wall of D are good, except that, I forget which one, but one of their cards is immune to traps. And anything that gets out with a Rose Lover.
Oh, because Rose Lover makes them immune for one turn.
Right,
traps.
Yeah, I think one of the two tribute guys also is just on its own, but definitely anything that comes back with Rose Lover, which, if you're not paying attention, or because Rose Lover hasn't seen much play before this meta, you might not have known that. I saw someone misplay against it on Decade's stream, and then I, being the intellectual that I am, went and misplayed against it myself immediately thereafter for that reason. So be careful, be mindful of that when you're trying to stop them.
Yep. And finally, the Sylvans. They're an excavation-based deck. Apparently, they invented the keyword excavate in the TCG just because of them.
Yeah, it's weird because we were talking about it like it should have been a keyword. Because before, when we were talking about the merchant, we're like, oh, okay, this is a cool effect. And then they added a couple more into the game that have similar, that do excavation. And we're like, well, we should have a word for this instead of just making it up. And we were calling it excavating before. So it's nice that they finally made it official.
I think Merchant came after these cards in the TCG, and then we got it before in Duel Links or something. Something like that happened, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's weird. I guess because the cards come in like different order. Because some of the excavation cards before this didn't say excavate. They just said remove from top until...
I mean, that's like piercing. It's like the classic case.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, Sylvans can be bought through with 2 to 3 run-throughs of this mini-box, so it's not too expensive, honestly. Like, mini-boxes go by fast. Rose Lovers you can get from the trader. But there are SRs from obscure boxes. Monster Reincarnation from Chaotic Compliance, and Raging Mad Plants from Land of the Titans. Don't go crazy looking for these cards, but if you want to build a certain version, then go for it, I guess. Magical Merchants from Neo Impact. Typically,
right, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
You always see this deck with Restart, I think. That's about it. And it runs very few spells and no traps, typically, so sometimes they can mill themselves to death.
Mm-hmm. What I was going to say is I've seen a couple versions of this. I've faced a couple. Like I said, DK was playing it on his stream. They don't all run the Reincarnation. They don't all run the Raging Mad Plants. So you before you go searching for one of those cards, you want to kind of take a look at a few deck lists, see which ones kind of speak to you, or maybe you've seen a couple on the ladder or in the whatever it's called, the place where you can go in-game to look at the card studio to look at other decks and see if there's a build that you like that maybe doesn't require those cards, or if if you're willing to put the money in for them, just make sure that you are making an informed decision about that and that you actually want to play that version, because they're not like necessary cards.
Yeah, I didn't even know what those cards did.
We talked about Raging Mad Plants when it came out, about how it was a potential for it to be super strong, but there was no deck for it at the time because there wasn't like a deck that could have used it very well. And I played Monster Reincarnation a little bit in various decks, but it never really found a home either. Yeah. So.
And a common theme we are seeing is Rose Lover being like everywhere.
Yes, yeah. Rose Lover is super good. Again, that was another one of those cards. We were picking it up from the trader as soon as it came out, even though there weren't like great targets for it at the time, because that's just a really powerful card.
Oh yeah, and a card I see sometimes is Talia. I'm not sure if that's in the Aramage deck or this deck, but I have seen that card too come back. Not Talia, the Sunflower one.
Yes, yeah.
Marinia.
Yeah, Marinia. There you go.
So, different plants are coming together.
Yeah.
And these decks are all great in PvP right now, so most of the ones we mentioned are cheap too, so good idea to pick them up.
Yeah, if you're trying to figure out what you want to play, if you're newer to the game, any of those stuff, those are kind of some of the things to look out for now.
Yep. Upcoming news, Gardner's coming. This is a spoiler, obviously, if you didn't expect it. I kind of spoiled it for myself. But we have the card leak on Reddit as well here, so you want to check that out. It's there. There's some really cool voice lines. I looked at the voice lines, so I spoiled it, but I'm not going to tell you what the voice lines are, but they're pretty spicy.
Ooh.
It's like fourth wall stuff.
I like it.
Yeah, okay. And leaked duel skills. There's a few leaked duel skills, and then there's one with Fishies. It's unnamed, but basically does what Exchange of the Spirit does. If Fishies has at least 10 cards in her graveyard, you swap your opponent's graveyards with their decks and yours as well.
Oh, okay. So this is a crazy skill, but not quite as crazy as I thought, because I misread it when you sent it to me. So there's some interesting stuff. Switch their deck and graveyard. Oh, yeah. So no, I think you just misread it. Both players have to switch their deck and graveyard with each other's at the beginning
No,
of
it's
the
not like
turn.
you give them your deck. It's you. Each person switches their graveyard and decks. That's how it worked in the show, I think.
Oh, well, that's not what this says, but this also has a typo in the middle, so I think this is still a work in progress if it's going to be anything. But so I guess let's talk about both possible interpretations. I read it to be that you switch your deck with their deck and you switch your graveyard with their graveyard. Like you just kind of switch places except you keep your hand. And with that interpretation, then this skill would be nutty because you could like just run all of the self-mill cards and make it so that you have 1 or 0 cards left in your deck. And then obviously once you've done that, you've milled your whole deck, so you have 10 or more cards in your graveyard, and then you use the ability, switch it, pass the turn, they start their turn, they can't draw, they lose. So it's a one-turn kill. Well, I guess not really one-turn kill, but it's a unavoidable kill once you've milled yourself out. So that's why I don't think that version of the skill, it might come into the game, but hopefully they're testing to prevent it from doing that, or if they do, they have to have some sort of plan, because it's way too easy to self-mill yourself in this game at this time. And I like it. This whole box is based on it, this MiniBOX. So it seems weird for them to it would be weird for them to introduce this at this time, because it would require them to get rid of all of those self-mill cards, and they just added a bunch of them, and they're interesting and fun, at least for now. So that was my thinking on that interpretation of it. Did you have, since you read it the other way based on what happened in the show and stuff, what do you think about the other way of it working?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely suck against Sylvans or any deck that kind of that tries to put stuff into the graveyard. But it could just end ones that are more conservative in putting things into the graveyard. I think Cyber Angels is one that it would do well against because they try to get their cards back each turn from the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very disruptive ability that would screw up many decks and force them to give up the next turn or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of decks that rely on messing with their own graveyard, so if you're kind of undoing that, then I could see that really messing those up.
And it's kind of like the Ishizu thing with the skeletons as well.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. So, and that's what the card did in the show. Kaiba almost lost because he had 6 cards in his graveyard and they flipped it. So that's what I'm pretty sure that's what the ability is.
Okay, I'm less freaked out now then.
Yeah. Other skills include a starting off blast held by the tribute, something with Guilford the Lightning, starting off with Amazon's Village and Sagan, so more boring skills. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Alright, we're going to wrap it up. Shout out to Squeaky Potato, who sent us a comment on the website. Hey guys, just wanted to let you know I greatly enjoy your podcast. My son got into Yu-Gi-Oh! In January, and I ended up finding Duel Links and getting it back into it myself. Since then, I've listened to almost every episode of your show and gained a ton of knowledge about Duel Links and the meta in general. I look forward to listening to your show every Sunday, and just wanted to say keep up the great work. So thanks for the comment, Squeaky Potato. It's great that we made a difference getting you back into the game.
Yeah, we love to see comments like that. It really brightens our day, and we're glad to hear that we are helping you kind of, have fun with your son and everything. That's awesome.
Yep. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is life.
Yep. It's like the whole friendship thing from the show, except, this is like intergenerational and stuff.
Yep. This show has never gone away. And the lessons learned in the show, too.
Yep. That's right.
So whenever someone does something bad to you, just challenge them into a card game and you'll be good. Alright, so that's it for us today. Thank you for listening, everyone. Find us on the App Store, Google Play, Stitcher, and others. Check out the podcast and more at our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We have a YouTube channel if you want to check that out. Help support us at Patreon, patreon.com/duel_assessment. Send us an email with any questions at theduelassessment@gmail.com. And you can find us on Twitter, duel_assessment, me at Green Ranger HS, and DeckTech at HS DeckTech.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, we got hacked, so we've made it. But maybe not.
That's weird.
I don't know. Twitter told me, like, it logged me out of our shared account and said that we were doing stuff that looked like we were hacked or something, and I couldn't see any evidence of it, so I don't know if Twitter was just being weird or if something happened and then got fixed or whatever, but I'm going to call it we got minorly hacked, and I'm going to call that that means we've made it, because people are thinking of us worthy enough to be hacked. So, good job, team.
Imagine someone like in the FBI just like going through our account.
That's right. It's Konami. They want to know our thoughts on the game and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we'll keep on going so as long as they allow us to.
That's right.
All right. See you guys.
We'll catch you next week.